When we talk about keeping your head up, it's not just about posture. It's about perspective. It's about refusing to live with your eyes fixed only on where you are now and instead daring to look at where you can be. There's a version of you that you haven't met yet. A stronger, wiser, braver version. You may not see them in the mirror today, but they're already alive inside your potential. That's the person you are working for every single day. The problem is, we often underestimate the power of what we can't yet see. We measure ourselves by our current results, forgetting that our current results are just a snapshot, not the whole movie. And sometimes that snapshot is blurry, dark, or even painful. But your future self isn't defined by the struggles you're in now. They are shaped by the way you respond to those struggles. Every small choice you make in this moment is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. You see, life has a strange way of demanding that we believe first before we receive. That's the uncomfortable truth. It's not, I'll believe it when I see it. No, it's, I'll see it because I believed it. And that's where many people get stuck. They want evidence before they commit, results before they invest effort, applause before they take the stage. But growth doesn't work like that. Your future self is counting on you to act in faith now, before there's any proof that it will pay off. Think of it like planting a seed. When you put that seed into the soil, you can't see anything happening. Days, sometimes weeks, pass and the surface looks unchanged. But underneath, there's a silent revolution taking place. Roots are spreading. Foundations are being built. And if you keep watering it, if you protect it from being trampled, one day a small green shoot will break through. That's how your future works. Right now, you might be in the root stage, no visible progress, just unseen development. But if you stop nurturing it because nothing's happening, you'll never give it the chance to bloom. The hardest part is staying committed to someone you haven't met yet, that future self. It feels strange because it requires you to hold two truths in your mind at once, who you are today and who you're becoming. The first is visible, the second is invisible. The first is certain, the second is a risk. But all progress in life demands that you step toward that risk. And here's the paradox of you are already becoming that person simply by deciding to work toward them. The moment you make a choice that your current self would avoid, but your future self would be proud of, you close the gap between the two. Every time you show discipline when you feel lazy, every time you speak with kindness when anger would be easier, every time you keep going when quitting would feel justified, you are voting for the version of yourself that you want to meet. Psychologists often talk about future self continuity, the degree to which you feel connected to your future self as if they are the same person as you today. People who feel that connection more strongly tend to make wiser long-term choices. Why? Because they're not just living for the moment. They're protecting and investing in someone they deeply care about, their own future self. If you could sit across from the person you'll be in 10 years, what would they thank you for? And what would they wish you had done differently? The truth is, your future self is not a stranger. They are you, but shaped by the decisions you make from this moment on. If you neglect your health today, you're handing them a weaker body. If you waste your opportunities, you're handing them regret. If you give in to fear, you're handing them a smaller life. But if you stay committed, keep learning, keep showing up, you're handing them strength, wisdom, and doors that only open for those who persisted. That's why it matters to believe in that unseen version of you. Because belief isn't just a feeling, it's a discipline. It's the daily choice to live as if your best self is on the way. It's resisting the urge to settle for what's comfortable and instead leaning into what's necessary. It's understanding that the person you're becoming deserves the very best effort from the person you are now. So, when you feel tired, when progress feels slow, when it seems like nothing's changing, lift your head. Not because your current circumstances are perfect, but because you are aligning yourself with a vision that is worth the struggle. Keep your eyes fixed on that unseen version of you, the one who is stronger because you didn't give up, wiser because you stayed humble, and more fulfilled because you refused to settle. One day, you will wake up and realize you've become that person, and you will be grateful that the you of today decided to believe without evidence, to fight without applause, and to keep going without guarantees. Remember this: every step you take today is an act of service to the person you are becoming. Don't let them down. We've talked about believing in the unseen version of you. But belief alone is not enough. It has to be carried across the rough waters of life. Of that bridge between who you are today and who you're becoming is called resilience. Without it, the vision you hold will remain a dream, fragile and incomplete. With it, you can cross storms, endure delays, and still arrive whole. Resilience isn't about being untouched by hardship. It's about refusing to let hardship define your direction. Life, in its rawest form, is unpredictable. You can plan perfectly, yet still be caught in the downpour without an umbrella. And in those moments, the temptation is to stop, to turn around, to surrender to the voice that says, maybe this isn't for you. But resilience answers back, it's still for me. I'm still moving. We often think strength is about physical endurance or unshakable confidence. But real resilience is quieter. It's the courage to get out of bed the day after everything falls apart. It's showing up when the applause has faded. It's doing the right thing when it no longer feels exciting. You may not look strong in those moments. You might even feel broken. But resilience is often forged in the invisible battles that no one else sees. Think of the people you admire most. The ones whose stories stay with you aren't the ones who had everything go smoothly. They're the ones who were knocked down, sometimes repeatedly, but kept getting back up. And each time they rose, they didn't just return to where they were. They carried a new depth, a new wisdom, a new strength that could only be earned through the fall. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth, the phenomenon where adversity, rather than simply wounding us, becomes the very soil from which we grow stronger. It's not the pain itself that transforms us, but our decision to face it with courage. Resilience doesn't erase the hurt, it reframes it. Instead of seeing challenges as dead ends, you begin to see them as training grounds for the future self you're building. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Resilience requires persistence long before you see progress. It's like running a marathon without a clear finish line in sight. You have to trust that every step counts, even when your legs are burning and your mind is whispering, this is pointless. That trust is what keeps you moving forward when the outcome is still a mystery. I remember hearing someone say that life's trials are not meant to break you, but to reveal you. Every difficulty strips away the unnecessary layers, the ego, the false expectations, the illusions, until what's left is your truest core. And when you reach that core, you realize you're capable of far more than you imagined. Resilience also demands flexibility. It's not about charging forward blindly. It's about adjusting your approach without abandoning your destination. Imagine a river flowing around rocks. It doesn't stop when it meets an obstacle. It changes its path, sometimes slowly, sometimes with great force, but always forward. That's how your future self needs you to navigate life. You don't quit because the path shifted. You adapt, you learn, you keep going. And perhaps the hardest part of resilience is that it often feels lonely. People may not understand your persistence. They might question why you're still trying, why you haven't settled, why you keep pushing through something so uncertain. But resilience is rarely a group project. It's deeply personal. You may have cheerleaders for part of the journey, but there will be stretches where it's just you, your vision, and the discipline to keep walking. There's a quiet dignity in refusing to give up. Not the loud, dramatic kind that makes headlines, but the steady, stubborn kind that builds a life worth living. Every time you rise after a fall, you strengthen that bridge between your present and your future. And over time, crossing it becomes less about willpower and more about identity. You're no longer just someone who's trying. You're someone who doesn't quit. So when the storms come, and they will, remember that resilience is not a trait you're born with or without. It's a skill, a choice, a daily practice. It's built in moments when you decide to endure rather than escape, to grow rather than shrink, to move forward rather than retreat. You may not see the full picture now, but trust this: every step you take through hardship is carrying you toward the person you're meant to be. The bridge you're walking is made of every setback you refused to let end your story. One day when you've crossed it, you'll look back and see that the storms didn't destroy you. They carried you here. So keep your head up even when the wind is strong. Keep your feet moving, even when the ground feels uncertain. Your future self is waiting on the other side, and they're counting on you to make it across. We've talked about belief. We've talked about resilience. But belief without action is only wishful thinking, and resilience without consistent movement is only surviving, not progressing. The truth is, your destiny is not built in the grand moments of life. It's carved quietly, patiently, in the small, ordinary choices you make every single day. We live in a world obsessed with big leaps. The overnight success stories, the life-changing opportunities, the sudden breakthroughs of. But what no one likes to talk about is the quiet grind that happens behind those moments. It's not the single applause, filled stage appearance that makes a great speaker. It's the years of showing up to empty rooms, refining every word, every pause, every gesture. It's not the single published book that defines a great author. It's the thousands of hours spent writing drafts that no one will ever read. Destiny is not a lightning strike. It's a slow sunrise built from 1,000 tiny rays of effort, discipline, and focus. And here's the paradox. Because it's so slow, most people miss it. They think nothing is happening. They can't see the connection between today's decision and tomorrow's reality. But the truth is, everything you do today is writing your future. Every choice is a seed, and seeds don't grow overnight. But they grow all the same. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you planting seeds that will grow into the life you want? Or are you scattering weeds that will choke your own progress? You may think skipping one day of effort doesn't matter. You may think one more unhealthy choice, one more hour wasted won't make a difference. But life is built like compound interest. Small habits, good or bad, multiply quietly until one day you wake up and realize they've created your reality. Psychologists talk about the aggregation of marginal gains. The idea that tiny improvements, repeated consistently, create massive change over time. Imagine if every day you just improved one thing by 1%. It might feel meaningless today, but in a year, in 5 years, that consistency would completely transform you. The problem is, most people want the reward without the repetition. They want to reap without sowing, to harvest without planting. And this is where discipline comes in. Motivation may get you started, but discipline keeps you going when motivation fades. And it will fade. There will be days when you don't feel like doing the thing you know you should do. Days when progress feels invisible. Days when you wonder if it's even worth it. Those are the days that count most. Because the future self you're building isn't just shaped by what you do when it's easy. They're shaped by what you do when it's hard. Let me tell you something. There is no neutral in life. You are either moving forward or slowly sliding backward. Every action or inaction is a vote for the kind of life you will live. That's why your daily habits matter so much. If you choose to show up for yourself every single day, no matter how small the step, you're creating momentum. And momentum is powerful. Once it builds, it becomes harder to stop than it is to keep going. But here's what's equally true: neglect also compounds. Missing one workout, skipping one study session, ignoring one important task. It might seem small, but repeated over time, it builds into a wall between you and the life you want. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is measured in your daily choices, not in your intentions. And perhaps the most liberating truth is this: you don't have to take massive action to start shaping your destiny. You just have to take consistent action. 5 minutes of reading every day is better than 2 hours once a month. Writing a few sentences a day is better than dreaming of writing a novel someday. Progress is less about intensity and more about consistency. So ask yourself, if someone could follow you around for 24 hours and see every single thing you did, would they be able to predict the future you say you want? If the answer is no, then it's time to align your actions with your vision. Because your destiny isn't determined by what you hope for, it's determined by what you practice for. Every day you wake up, you are faced with a simple but profound choice. Do I act in a way that serves my future self? Or do I act in a way that sabotages them? And when you frame it that way, skipping the right action becomes harder to justify. Because suddenly, it's not just about today, it's about the you that you will meet in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. One day, you will look back on this exact season of your life, and you will either thank yourself for showing up or wish you had. That's the power and the weight of daily actions. They are the bricks in the foundation of your future. Lay them with care, with intention, and with the knowledge that each one matters. Because the truth is, your destiny is not waiting to be discovered. It's waiting to be built. And you're building it right now with what you do next. So make today count. not in the grand, dramatic ways that get celebrated on social media, but in the quiet, disciplined ways that no one sees. Because the life you dream of is not somewhere far away. It's in the habits you choose, starting now. We've spoken about belief, about resilience, and about the quiet power of daily actions. But here's something that often tests all three weighting of. Because no matter how much you believe, no matter how consistent you are, life will put you in seasons where the results don't come on your schedule of. And in those moments, it's easy to think you're being punished, overlooked, or forgotten. But the truth is, those delays are often the very seasons that prepare you for what you've been asking for. We live in a culture that worships speed. We want things instantly, instant success, instant recognition, instant results. But life, in its wisdom, is not always in a hurry. Sometimes it slows you down, not to frustrate you, but to strengthen you. It withholds the next chapter because you haven't yet developed the skills, the patience, or the perspective to carry it well. And if you rush into something before you're ready, you risk losing it before you've even had a chance to grow into it. Think about nature. A seed doesn't sprout the moment you plant it. It has to go underground, hidden from view, while its roots develop. If you were to dig it up too soon because you were impatient to see growth, you would destroy the very process that makes growth possible. And yet, we often treat our own dreams the same way, constantly digging them up, in frustration, checking to see if they're working, instead of allowing the hidden growth to happen. The waiting seasons are uncomfortable because they demand a kind of trust we're not used to practicing. Trust in the unseen, trust in the process. Trust that your efforts are not in vain, even when there's no visible proof. It's in these seasons that you learn patience, not as passive sitting, but as active preparation. Patience is not doing nothing. Patience is doing what you can with what you have, while believing that what you've sown will one day bear fruit. It's about using the time between I started and it happened to become the kind of person who can handle the weight of what you're asking for. Because here's the thing, sometimes your dream isn't delayed. Sometimes you are. Sometimes the opportunity is ready, but you're not. Life has a way of putting you through situations that refine you for the road ahead. Maybe you think you're ready for that promotion, that platform, that breakthrough. But if you got it today, could you handle the responsibility, the pressure, the criticism that comes with it? Would you have the emotional stability to sustain it, the wisdom to protect it, the humility to keep growing even after you've reached it? That's what the waiting seasons are for. They prepare you so that when the opportunity finally arrives, you won't just receive it. You'll be able to keep it. And let's be honest, sometimes the waiting feels cruel. You see others getting what you've been working for. You wonder why your turn hasn't come. But comparing your timing to someone else's is like comparing a sunflower to a rose. They both bloom beautifully, but they bloom in their own season. Just because your flower hasn't opened yet doesn't mean it's dead. It means it's not ready. And neither are you. One of the hardest truths to accept is that delay is not denial. What feels like a no might actually be a not yet. And not yet is a gift. Because it means you still have time to prepare, to learn, to grow, to refine your vision. It means you have time to build the kind of character that won't crumble when the weight of success is finally placed on your shoulders. The key is to shift your mindset from frustration to preparation. Instead of asking, why is this taking so long? Start asking, what is this season trying to teach me? That one question can turn waiting from a prison into a classroom. It can turn delay into development. It can turn resentment into readiness. Looking back, you'll often realize that the seasons you once hated, the ones that felt like the universe had forgotten you, were actually the seasons that shaped you the most. You'll see that the timing you thought was late was actually perfect. Because had things happened earlier, you wouldn't have been ready to hold them. And here's the beauty. When the moment finally arrives, it won't just be about the achievement. It will be about the person you became in the process. That's the real prize. The dream is important, yes, but the transformation that happens on the way to it, that's what lasts forever. So, if you're in a season of delay right now, keep your head up, keep working, keep learning, keep building yourself so that when the opportunity comes, it finds you prepared, not scrambling. Because your future self will not just thank you for achieving the goal, they'll thank you for becoming the kind of person who could. And maybe, just maybe, of the weight you hate today is the very thing ensuring that when you step into your future, you'll be ready to stay there. By now, you've learned to believe in the unseen version of yourself. You've learned to build resilience, to honor the power of daily actions, and to embrace delays as preparation of. But there is one more force that can either keep you frozen where you are or propel you into the future you've been working toward. Fear. Fear has a quiet way of disguising itself as logic. It whispers, maybe you should wait until you're more ready. It tells you, what if you fail and everyone sees? It points out every possible flaw, every potential embarrassment, every reason why it's safer not to try. And because fear often sounds reasonable, we listen to it. We give it authority over our choices. But here's the truth. Fear will always have a list of reasons for you to stay where you are. It will never run out of excuses to keep you small. If you let it, a fear will convince you to build a life that feels safe, but is far too small for the person you are meant to be. This is why faith matters. And I'm not just talking about faith in a religious sense, though for many that's a powerful part of it. I'm talking about a deeper, more universal kind of faith. Faith in possibility. Faith in the value of your effort. Faith in the idea that even if you can't see the full staircase, the next step is still worth taking. Faith does not mean you won't feel fear. It means you won't give fear the final vote in your decision-making. It's the understanding that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. And that's the choice your future self is begging you to make. Not to wait until fear is gone, but to act while it's still there. I think sometimes we wait for fear to disappear before we act, as if courage is a warm blanket we can wrap around ourselves until we feel invincible. But courage is not a blanket, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it only grows when you use it. Every time you act in the presence of fear, you strengthen your ability to do it again. Psychologists have found that one of the most effective ways to reduce fear is to confront it gradually, to take small, consistent steps toward the thing that scares you until it loses its power over you. In other words, action creates confidence, not the other way around. Waiting for confidence before you act is like waiting for the fire to be warm before you light it. And here's something important to understand. Fear often shows up right before a breakthrough. That's because your brain is designed to protect you from the unfamiliar. The moment you step into something new, your mind registers it as a threat, not because it's dangerous, but because it's different. Fear is simply your brain's way of saying, we've never been here before. But that's exactly where growth happens, in the places you've never been. I want you to imagine for a moment that your future self could speak to you right now. Would they tell you to play it safe? Would they say, don't try, you might fail? Or would they look you in the eye and say, please go for it? We need you to try. We need you to take that step, even if it scares you off, because everything we've worked for depends on it. Faith is what allows you to step into that unknown space with the belief that you will find your footing as you go off. It's what allows you to look fear in the face and say, I hear you, but you don't get to decide my life. Because here's the reality. Your future self will never thank you for staying in your comfort zone, but they will thank you for every risk you took in service of your growth. And let's be honest, not every leap will go perfectly. You will stumble. You will have moments where you wish you'd done it differently. But those moments won't destroy you. In fact, they'll teach you things safety never could. Every failure becomes a teacher. Every risk taken in faith becomes a step toward becoming the person you were meant to be. What's the alternative? To stay safe but untouched by risk and untouched by growth. To trade the possibility of greatness for the guarantee of mediocrity. To build a life so small that you can control it, but so small that it never excites you. That's not living. That's just surviving in slow motion. The truth is, fear will always be there, but so will faith. The question is, which one will you feed more? Fear feeds on hesitation, on what-ifs, on overthinking. Faith feeds on action, on trust, on the decision to move forward, even when you can't see the whole picture. Your future self is standing on the other side of your fear, waiting for you to take the step off. And one day you'll look back and realize that the moments you were most afraid were the moments that defined you. So choose faith. Not because fear is gone, but because your future is worth the risk. There comes a moment when you realize that the journey you're on is not just about reaching a destination, but about becoming someone worthy of the destination. And that someone is not a stranger. It's your future self. The person you will one day meet is being shaped by the choices you make right now, by the habits you form, and by the resilience you build. This is why you can't afford to live passively. Every day is a brick in the foundation of that person's life. Every thought, every action, every small act of discipline or lapse of it is either building your future self or tearing them down. I want you to imagine this one day, years from now. You walk into a room and there's a version of you sitting there, strong, confident, fulfilled. They are everything you've ever wanted to be. Now imagine asking them, "How did you get here?" And they smile, look you in the eye and say, "Because you never gave up on me." That's what this is about, living each day in such a way that your future self will thank you, not resent you. It's easy to forget this when life is heavy, when bills are due, relationships break, dreams take longer than expected, and the pressure feels unbearable. It's tempting to take the easy path, to let days slip by in distraction, to avoid the hard conversations, to put off the uncomfortable steps. But in those very moments, your future self is watching, silently pleading, "Don't quit on me. I'm counting on you." There's a quiet truth I've learned. The future doesn't just arrive, it's earned. It's crafted in the unseen hours when no one is cheering for you. It's sculpted in those moments when you choose discipline over comfort, when you say no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's necessary. And the thing about discipline is that it doesn't feel good in the moment. It feels like sacrifice. But sacrifice is simply the down payment on a life you haven't yet lived. People often say, "Live in the present." And yes, that's wise. But living in the present doesn't mean ignoring the future. It means being so intentional today that you are proud of it tomorrow. It's realizing that now and the later are not separate. They are a continuous thread. What you do with this moment directly determines the quality of the next one. I've met too many people who live in regret, who look back and wish they had been braver, more consistent, less afraid. They say things like, "If I could go back, I'd do it differently." And I always think, what if you just stop creating those moments of regret right now? What if instead of making choices that you'll have to apologize to yourself for, you start making choices that will make you proud? That shift alone can change everything. You see, your future self is not asking you to be perfect. They are simply asking you to be faithful, to show up when it's hard, to take one more step when you're tired, to plant seeds even when the soil looks dry, trusting that in time something beautiful will grow. Or they are asking you to treat your body with care, your mind with respect, and your dreams with commitment. And here's the beautiful irony. When you live in service of your future self, your present self benefits too. You walk taller because you're no longer just drifting. You make decisions with clarity because you know where you're headed. You live with a quiet confidence, knowing that you're not betraying the person you're becoming. But this requires courage. Courage to say no to what doesn't serve you. Courage to walk away from environments that drain you. Courage to delay gratification. And courage to endure seasons where you see no evidence of progress, trusting that the work is happening beneath the surface. One day, you'll stand face to face with the person you're building right now. That meeting will either fill you with joy or break your heart. And that is why, even on your hardest days, you have to keep your head up, not because everything is perfect today, but because you are investing in someone who is worth the fight. So, I'll leave you with this. Your future self is not a distant fantasy. They are real, they are waiting, and they are relying on you. Don't keep them waiting in disappointment. Show up for them today so that when you finally meet, you can look them in the eye and say, "I've been expecting you." And they will smile and say, "Thank you for not giving up on me."